Well, good afternoon. Thank you for staying around a little bit late. A policy session went a little bit longer, but we had some extra things like the elections to do, and so we're glad we're here. Glad you're here. The overall convention, we've wrapped up another successful annual meeting of the American Farm Bureau. Our theme this year was for the convention was Vision 2020, and we focused on the future, looking forward. Sustainability and innovation were two words that you heard a lot over the last few days. American farmers and ranchers are committed to being responsible stewards of our land and livestock. We talked a lot this week about how to collaboratively reduce greenhouse emissions without government mandates. Sustainability and productivity are being increased through our innovative ideas coming from the brightest minds in our industry, and we're very proud of that. We saw the future of agriculture at work excuse me, through our Ag Innovation Challenge. And some of those are very, very fascinating. We're addressing the opportunities and challenges of emerging markets, our products such as hemp and synthetic food. As far as our delegate meeting, the decisions made today reinforce long-standing policies that we've had in place and addressed important issues facing the American farmer. This included reinforcement of policies that our members support related to economic opportunity, whether that's hemp, the need for labor, markets for trade and dairy. Our members are looking for economic opportunities to succeed. The theme ran consistently through the decisions, the debates, and the policies that were adopted. Trade continues to be a major focal point for us and will continue to be long-term. We continue to work on providing the American farmer and rancher a level playing field. We look to federal government to permanently fix the guest worker visa process to address the need for year-round workers. As USDA finalizes regulation relating to hemp, our delegates have called for slight revisions there that we think would improve the program. Delegates reinforce the need for broadband in rural areas. The future looks brighter as we continue to work with Washington, D.C. to improve trade. We've had several big wins this year, as you've heard through the convention, including the U.S.-Japan trade agreement, China Phase 1, and soon-to-be signed U.S.-Mexico trade agreement. There is more to be done, and we'll continue to work on behalf of farmers and ranchers across the country to ensure that they can continue to provide the best food and fiber here and abroad. With that, I'd also like to just comment that obviously you know that President Duvall was not here because of his wife passing away. It was sad for our people at the convention as a family of Farm Bureau, but at the same time we celebrated her life at that same time. And so it was a great pleasure and an honor for me to serve as Vice President, standing in for President Duvall. And also I'd like to introduce Mike McCormick, who served as the Vice Chairman of the Resolutions Committee and read all the resolutions to the delegates as we went through the process, and went fairly smoothly. So with that, I'd like to invite any questions. Well, I think you're seeing a lot of frustration in the dairy industry, and it came through in our members that are dairymen. The lack of profitability has been pretty severe and long-standing for the dairy industry, and they're looking for ways to change the pricing structure in the United States to make it more fair, reduce overlap, duplicity, things that make the dairy industry less efficient. And I think it comes down to, it translates into prices that dairy producers receive from the processors, because if the processors aren't very efficient, that takes away from the milk check that comes down.
And as part of that, is there a desire to perhaps get some additional controls on how the supply is managed?
I think that would be part of it. Part of the policy that we adopted would provide for producers to be able to vote in referendums and things like that on their own, rather than the co-op voting for them, so that process would be available to them, and also um, uh, anonymous is the word I was looking for.
One of your presidents also explained to me that there's a desire to be able to move milk more nationally,
Mhm.
regionally, within these different territories, and that there was some interest in building more milk deficit areas
Mhm.
where possible, and sort of looking at an overall reform of the order system.
Mhm. And again, it goes back to the frustration with profitability. Any way we can make the system more efficient across the nation will translate into better economic situations for our producers and also help their American public consumers.
It seemed, though, that there was division within the Southeast. I mean, there was one delegate just wanted a feasibility study on changes, and that kind of got shot down. Well, what makes the Southeast much more complicated in this situation?
Well, I wish I had a dairy producer standing here, and maybe Mike understands it better than I do if you want to make some comments. There's a lot of regional differences in the country, and it has to do with milk deficit areas compared to surplus areas. Mike, if you'd like to chime in, that'd be great.
I think the gentleman from Tennessee that wanted this study is very passionate about his position, but talking with other states, and Mississippi was a state that just absolutely wanted, our producers said that component pricing was the thing that they wanted to come out of this policy that we discussed today. Talking through the Southeast and even in the Southwest with Texas, everyone was in agreement that component pricing was something that our members wanted in those states, and that our policy aligned in the end with what our membership asked for. So I appreciate his stance on it, but the Southeast was very united in the fact that we wanted component pricing.
Scott, was Purdue aware of the recommendations of the board about the mass survey changes? Because he made a big point in his speech talking about that pretty heavily.
Mhm.
But did you guys address that with him beforehand?
In the discussions I was involved with the secretary, we did not talk about that. He does know of our farmers' concern about the way data is collected and its effect on the markets. And he stands by the fact that they've used those processes for a long time, and he points to the June report being very similar to the latest report. But he also said in some of the discussions we were talking about, they're also looking at new technology. We had a presentation from the NASA administrator back in July, and some of the things that they talk about there, the technology that's available through their systems, possibly could be used with that. And the secretary indicated that he had met with them, and they're trying to look at some things that might be possibilities for improving. So we're glad to hear that. NASA, yes. National Aeronautics and Space Administration. They have some just absolutely baffling technology.
A lot of talk about labeling and synthetic food.
Mm-hmm.
A whole new section created. Can you just give your take on that?
Sure. We're very concerned as technology comes along that traditional forms of protein especially are treated fairly. We're concerned that labeling is accurate so that consumers know exactly what they're getting and that they're fairly informed about the foods that they're buying. We want to make sure that the synthetic foods that are created are not confused with traditional protein sources and therefore not labeled as with common names that are currently used in those areas. Yes.
Secretary Perdue talked quite a bit about the desire to be patient about the trade deals coming into effect,
Mm-hmm.
and the time before the Chinese may be in the market and having some market impact. At the same time, talking about not having a 2020 MFP program. Your members seem to go back and forth on whether there should be some closure or a time or
Right.
How long do you think that it will be for your delegates to be patient and not ask for the 2020 launch?
I think our members are basically saying, show us results. We're very, very happy that the President has the China Phase 1 agreement in place, USMCA in place, and will be signed very soon. But no products have moved. The implementation hasn't happened yet. And so it's kind of a prove it to me thing. And when we get down the road, there's nothing we would like better than to really have these agreements really kick in and show us some expanded market opportunities, and hopefully the markets will come with that to the point where we can go back to making all of our income off the market rather than having the government to make up for those trade disputes and the damage to the market that's been done. That's a real tough one because, you know, we're going into 2020 with kind of a long tail from 19, especially up in my part of the country. Farmers are looking at kind of a tough year. So I think the support for the administration and the trade agreements and the things we're working on is all there. That's very strong and solid. But at the same time, farmers are concerned about their income in 2020. And in my area especially, I've heard that there's going to be some tough conversations across the desk. And we certainly don't want to, desk with a banker, and we certainly don't want to lose any more farmers. And so that's where that concern is coming from. We hope that the new China agreement will really kick in and help our prices and get some grain moving, all products moving within a few months. But again, our members are saying, show me the progress. So I can't really put a time frame on it. Mike, if you want to join in.
Sir, one thing I would like to add is we're a pretty unique organization where our grassroots decide what our policy is, and it comes up through a working process that takes a whole year to develop. So we only have one shot per year of getting something in our policy book. So right now we're going into a China trade deal that has not even been fully implemented yet. We're 30 days away from seeing any progress on that. I think it's just a safety mechanism by our membership that we left the MFP language in there till we see what happens, and then next year, if all goes as well as hopefully it will, we can revisit it.
Great point, thanks. Anything else? Well, I'd just wrap up then by saying it's been a great pleasure having you all here. It's been a great convention. I would just add what a absolute fantastic honor and privilege it's been as the Vice President standing in for President Duvall again. And we certainly keep his family in our prayers and hope you all will too. And we'll look forward to a great 2020 and another great convention next year. So thank you all.